So now Ra is going to be giving you a demonstration on the iPad of his techniques. And when he's done with that, then I'll show you how I do it. So
Okay.
enjoy.
Move over to my iPad here. I'm going to be demoing a program called Artrage, and the maker of the app is called Ambient Design. They're good friends of mine. So to start, you're going to select New Painting. It's in the upper left corner. And the really cool thing about Artrage is what I enjoy. You can change the presets here. Like if you want to paint over something that looks like a canvas, you've got your basic fine and smooth options. You've got paper, and then you've got different textures like concrete and foil. So for the purpose of the exercise, I'm just going to pick a basic canvas, and then I tap it, and then I'll open up. And quickly I'm going to go over the tools before I start. They give you oils, they give you watercolors, they give you airbrush, there's a palette knife, there's a paint roller, paint tube, pencil, and so on and so forth. Since I use oils when I was going to art college, I'm going to just go in there and show you guys the presets, and that's what I'm going to be painting with. You get to use like a dry brush, you can get to use a thick gloss paint, you get to use thin and dry if you want, or even an unclean brush too, to simulate those feels. So if I go in my gearbox, which is in the lower left corner, I can choose the size of the brush, and then the pressure too, and the thinners and the loading and all that. If I want to have the paint dry, I can do that. If I want it to be able to mix, I can do that too. So my colors are in the bottom right corner, and the great thing about it is that they respond to the texture, which is the canvas, and then they also mix. So I'm just going to lay down the purple first, and if I introduce this yellow here, it's just going to start mixing with what I already have. And you can just keep doing that to push it out. So I pick another color, I'll pick a blue. And I'm just going to keep going until I fill up the canvas. So just like real paint, you can just smear it and smudge it too. Another cool thing I really like to do with the program is the paint tube. You just get thin strokes of paint here, or you can increase the size. So now they're like big, thick globs of paint. And then again, if I change the color, you'll see different effects. So once I have enough paint on the canvas, I can take my palette knife tool and just kind of smear everything. And there's enough paint on there where I'll be able to get some really nice effects. And another thing to remember about Artrage is you want to make sure all your other applications are closed on the iPad. Because Artrage is a big memory-heavy program, you want to make sure that you're not using too much of the iPad's power, or else you'll crash the program. Well, the palette knife, I'm just blending everything together. And if I ever want to go back to painting, I just open my menu, the gearbox, and then you tap the icon, tap my colors again, and I can switch whatever color I want. And let's look at some of the different options. Everlasting oil is cool because it's paint that doesn't run out. If I'm using just one of the regular brushes, like this thick gloss or the normal square, the paint will run out, like in real life. But with everlasting oil, you just get as much paint as you want, and you don't have to worry about the paint stroke running out at any given time. And if you want to save, you just tap the arrow and you hit save. And then you can go back to the gallery and see other work you have. I'm going to start another one here, and I'll use a different canvas so you get to see how that looks. This is a smooth canvas, so again the paint's going to react differently. And for this one, I think I'm going to actually do some sketching before I paint, so everybody can see how my process looks like if I'm not using oils. So I'm just going to start with the corner of this table here. And just like the oils, the pencil tool will respond very quickly to what I'm doing. So see, you can start to see the basic shapes come in. And then since I like this color, if I want it again, there's the paint dropper tool, and I can just go over the one I have. And I'll just make this a little darker to the edge of the table. And if I ever want to get closer to the subject, I can take 2 fingers, expand, and I'll zoom into whatever I'm painting. And that's really helpful for doing detail work. Okay, so I like the table, but I want to get to the chairs. So I'm going to make a new layer, hit new, and then you're going to take this one, tap and hold, and then drag it under the table layer I was working on. And then I'm just going to pick the color blue. And since I'm on this new layer, it's not going to interfere with what I have already. And that's really one of the great things about working on layers. It saves a lot of headache. Back to this neutral color. And I'll let it bleed into the blue a little bit for a different variation. I'll just zoom in so you can see. I'll make it a little darker here. And that's the first chair. And I'll move and do the same thing to the second chair. Okay, so the chairs are done. Now I want to put in the floor of the room I'm painting. So again, I go back into my layers, which is down there. New layer. Again, I drag it to the bottom. And I'm going to pick a brown. Just fill in the bottom layer there, and then I'll start doing different colors over it. So I go back into my toolbox, make the brush bigger, and I just start filling in on the bottom. And again, since everything's separate, nothing's going to conflict. Alright, so I like that, but I want a little more variation. So I'm going to go back to my gearbox. I'm going to take this down. And then I'm going to pick a lighter brown. I'm going to start mixing that in too. And then since I'm introducing new paint, it recognizes that there's still wet paint on the canvas. And it'll start to mix with whatever's down. Right, so I like that, and I'll keep building on it. Make it a little darker. And the further I drag it down, the darker it gets. And the lighter I drag it up, the lighter it gets. So I can either go towards white or I can go towards black. Another thing that will save space is merging layers. So I'll merge layer down. Let me slow down on that. So I go back into my layers. You hit this box here. Right, and then now I make a new layer again. And I'll start working on the wall that's in the back. So now I'm going to pick a different color again. This one's like a darker color, the one I just had. Bigger brush to fill it in. And then since I'm aware of the light and shadow from the subject that I'm painting, which is a room, I'm going to take down that same color towards black. That way this wall in the back will, recede instead of being the forefront. So the last thing I do for this piece is sign my name and make the brush smaller. And then I'll just zoom in, create a new layer here, and then very carefully with my brush, I just sign. You have to be pretty zoomed in to do this too. I think I'm at 800%. And again, it just helps you get a lot of details. So sign the year, 2014. Zoom out, and then I save it. Back to gallery. Okay. Can import from photos. I'll just take one of my paintings I've done already. Like I can import this one, and if I want to work on top of it, I can do just that. Or if you want to take a photograph that you want to manipulate, you can do that too. Like if I see an area of the painting I don't like, I can go in and then fix it. So Artrage gives you a lot of different options on painting and then importing photos or things like that to work on them again. And if I like it, I save, and then I'm all done.
The Grove is at 760 Chapel Street. So it is open Mondays through Fridays from 9 in the morning until 5 in the evening.